So I met Simon, the fencer in the lesson, a couple months ago when I first moved to St. Louis, and after playing around with him in open bouting, I identified that he had a problem with distinguishing what attacks were intentionally made from further away versus those that were made from up close with the intention to hit. Because Simon had a solid parry riposte for attacks that were made from close to him, but attacks that were made further away, he'd still take the bait and I could just go around his attempted parry and continue to hit him. We used a drill called the Tim Duncan Big Fundamental, which is based on the idea of footwork in small increments while trying to distinguish between similar stimuli. So in the coaching role, you'll see that I am searching for Simon's blade while I set the distance and we maintain footwork. And if I just search for the blade once, he goes around with what's called a disengage and we keep moving. And if I do an immediate second search, then he disengages and lunges. And the idea is to train the ability to keep up with your opponent's footwork and distinguish between a stimulus one would not try to hit against and one that one would. And as we're going to see, this benefited Simon's game very quickly and competed against an opponent who wanted to antagonize his blade, and Simon was able to differentiate what was worth going on and what wasn't. So as you'll see here, the fencer's keeping up with him. The opponent's a little bit more immobile, so he's actually using his hand a lot more than we were in the lesson. But nonetheless, Simon needs to keep up with him and distinguish when would want to go. And there's a double touch there, meaning that both fencers score a point, and Simon realizes that he needs to go back to the drawing board, keep pressure up on the opponent, and now he's doing something similar to what we did in the lesson, in that the fencer is searching, beating, feinting, looking for the blade. Simon's waiting for the opportune moment when he sees he's in distance, and then he goes ahead and he crushes distance. So the Tim Duncan has multiple distinct stages. The first is the one in which the coach searches for the blade and the opponent disengages, and the second one is actually with a beat. So I beat Simon's blade, and if I beat an immediate second time, similar to the first, he will immediately beat back and hit. So it's the same idea of keeping distance and being ready for a decision, but with a different stimulus, because oftentimes in a competitive environment, a certain opponent will prefer one kind of what we call preparation, either the search or the beat, or trying to take and control the blade. And here's where the unique thing about drills like the Tim Duncan come out, because there are thousands upon thousands of drills that you could do in which you have an athlete either repeat a motion for its mechanics or you simulate a tactical environment. But it is much more interesting to set up a drill in which the coach is actively employing and evolving their own skill. And this is useful no matter what the coach's walk of life is. In my particular case, I'm a coach who still actively competes, so I need to practice my own technique. But even if a coach just coaches, the more that they're exercising a skill, the more realistic and the more reliable of a prompt that they'll be able to provide in other lessons for their athletes. So this clip comes from the most recent North American Cup. So at this point, I've been coaching in St. Louis for about a semester. And what you'll notice is that I'm doing something similar to giving a lesson. So I'm maintaining a close distance with really short steps. I'm antagonizing my opponent's blade just a wee bit, and he doesn't know what to do with it. And then when the opportune moment comes, I go in for the attack. And I was able to hold my own in the bout, doing what I would do in the Tim Duncan. It was my go-to game plan, and it's become an integral part of my game. But similar to in the lesson, the opponent is kind of chided on, and he makes a decision at the wrong moment that I've set up for him. And I'm versed in setting these moments up because, as you'll see here with the remainder of the lesson, Simon, the name of the game in coaching the Tim Duncan is to be pulling and pushing the fencer at all times. And when you're giving the lesson, the difference is that you're not setting up your fencer to fail. Are you making it difficult? Certainly. But when Simon makes the right decision, that is, when I beat the blade 2 times in rapid succession on the forward step, he's in position to go. And I scored that last touch in the video by doing a very similar thing where I chain 2 beats together on a forward step to make my opponent think that he has me right where he wants me. And then I go ahead and I score the parry riposte when he attacks. And I was able to set it up that way. So what are the practical applications of a drill like the Tim Duncan? Namely, this is certainly geared towards competitive coaches in a sort of fencing desert, right? But even then, coaches that still wish to give realistic environments in their lessons can emulate lessons in which they need to exercise technical skills on behalf of their fencers. For me, building a competitive program in a city like St. Louis that has fencers wanting to fence but kind of a brain drain on coaches, drills like this are going to be the backbone of maintaining simultaneously a competitive fencing career and also thinking about fencing more pedagogically. That said, even in the more competitive regions of the country for fencing, such as the Northeast, the West Coast, little bits of Texas, coaches are going to benefit from implementing drills like these into their repertoire in as much as they'll be able to give environments in their lessons that fencers can prepare for the real deal on strip.